Hello folks, what's up again? This is me Saidalia here from Computer Science for Self-Taught. As I've promised you before that I will work out a nice example on SQLite Database and Android. So if you jumped suddenly to this video, make sure that you watch our previous videos is about SQLite, and then we have talk about SQLite databases a lot in the previous tutorial. So in this tutorial we are gonna learn how to create the schema of our database inside the Android Studio. I mean, you don't need to install anything in order to work with SQLite database. As I've told you before that SQLite is a lightweight, versatile, and a straightforward database. I mean, it is a relational database that you can start working with it. And this SQLite database is embedded inside the Android operating system. Even your Mozilla Firefox uses SQLite database. So what I'm going to do is, this is our database, and my database name is student.db. Okay, and this is the table that I'm going to create inside the Android. Okay, first I'm going to name my database as student.db, and afterwards I'm going to create a table and assign its column and ID's name and surname and marks to it. But I'm not going to use this scenario. I'm just going to a simple one so that you can understand or you can grasp the concept of SQLite, because you create the database programmatically, you create all of the table contents programmatically. So let's jump to Android Studio and start working with it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, inside your project, click on it and create a new class and name this class whatever you want. So I'm going to name this class as subscribe to my channel. Okay, click OK. So now you have created your class. So in order to work with SQLite database, you must extend this class from SQLiteOpenHelper, which is a class responsible for managing your database. I mean, if the database exists, so it's going to open that database and return an instance of SQLite to you. And if the database doesn't exist, so it's going to create your database and returns an instance of SQLite database for you. When you extend your class from the SQLite database, make sure that you implement the onCreate and onUpgrade methods. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to implement both of those methods. So now I have implemented both these onCreate and onUpgrade methods, because SQLiteOpenHelper is an abstract class and it has some abstract methods. So now issues error. We must create a constructor for our subscribe to my channel, and inside the constructor of our subclass, we must call the constructor of our superclass, called the constructor of SQLiteOpenHelper, and on there we must pass the context, database name, cursor factory, and database version. So I'm going to create a constructor for my class. I mean, subscribe to my channel. Public subscribe to my channel. Okay, I pass context in here. So we must call the constructor of superclass by calling the super method, and in here make sure that you pass the context. So right now I'm going to put null in here, which is database name, and cursor factory. If you want to work with your own cursor factory, so initialize the class and put the object in here, and if you are happy with the default one, so you can also put null in here. And in the third parameter is the database version. We will talk about this in this video, so I'm going to put 1 in here. So let's create our database schema, database version, tables, and its columns. So what I'm going to do is, in here I have to declare these variables as public, static, final. Public, static, final. Make sure that you use the naming conventions. Database name. So I'm going to name my database as my.db. If you do not provide .db extensions in here, don't worry, the superclass will do that for you. If you do not put .db extension, which is the extension of your database. Let's create our database version. Again, public, static, final, string, database version, which is integer, so I have to change the type of this one, integer. So I'm going to put 1. Okay, we use the database version because when we want to alter or change the schema of our database, so this version is really necessary. And every time you upgrade your database schema or tables schema, make sure you use a different database version, and these database versions must be in sequence. I mean, if you choose one, and again if you alter your tables or add another column, and if you omit that column, make sure that you provide 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. So this is how the version really works properly. If these things are still tricky for you, don't worry about it. We will work out a nice example. You will grasp the concept. So now we have the database name, which is my.db, and database version, which is assigned as 1. Let's create our table name. Public, static, final, string, table name equals to my table. Let's create columns for this table. So I choose public. You can also use private if you want, but I'm going to use these columns a lot in this video. That's why I choose public. Even I can access them outside this class. Public, static, final, string. If you're dealing with Android, if you want to make a column unique, to use the Android naming convention, which is _ID. If you do not use this convention, it's up to you completely. So I'm going to name my first table as _ID, public, static, final, string, and I'm going to name this column as name, public, static, final, string, password as pass. So this is the table and these are the columns of my table, and this table is inside my DB. So now you have learned how to create the database, its version, which we will use this version when we want to alter my table. For example, you have created your table already and now you want to add another column like public, static, final, string as address. So whenever you want to add this column into my table, make sure that you change the database version. If you do not change the database version, your app will crash and you won't interact with your app. If it is the first time, so you can choose one, and in the future if you want to add extra column to my table, so change these database versions. So now I'm only dealing with name and password, so in order to make it easy for you guys to learn it, so let's write the query for creating the table. So I'm gonna choose this private, static, final, string, and I call it query. In the database, you have learned how to create the table, and again in Android it's the same. Create table, okay? In here put your table name, open these brackets and put the semicolon in here. And inside that specify your ID, _ID. So I use this type of table name and ID. When writing query has finished, we will substitute this table name with this table name, okay, which is table name, and substitute this ID with this ID. So don't worry about it, let's create it first. So ID should be integer, and it is primary key of my column, which it uniquely identifies row data uniquely, and it is auto increment, and that's it. Let's create our name. So it should be varchar. I choose 255. You can also use text in here if you want, like text, that's it. And let's create our password, and again it is varchar 200, or you can choose text in here if you want, it doesn't matter. And that's it. Let's substitute these steps with the table name and column. Okay, in here I substitute table name with double quotes, and inside double quotes I use my table name. Okay, you can see it changed its color. And let's substitute this ID, double quotations, concatenated, so _ID. You can also see whenever I use these class instances in here, they will change their color. It means they are used someplace in your code. Let's change name, and I put name in here, and password as password, and that's it. This is the query for the creating table inside my DB database. So let's run this query. In order to run this query, in order to create your table, come to the onCreate method. So don't worry when to call onCreate and when to call onUpgrade. You don't need to worry about this because the SQLite database will do this for you when you open your app. If it is the first time you open your app, so it's going to call the onCreate method, and this method will create your database and your table. And if you alter or add an extra column to your existing table, so the onUpgrade will call first, it drops your table, and then it calls the onCreate method, and in here again your new table alongside your new column will be created. So in here, by using the DB, which is an instance of SQLite database, I call the execSQL to run our query. So I call db.execSQL, and it requires an SQL parameter. So what I'm going to pass, I'm going to pass the query in here. Whenever you are dealing with SQLite operations in your app, make sure that you put them inside the try catch. There may be a chance that they may raise an exception and your app will crash. So at least we must provide it in here. So again, I'm going to create a message class because I'm going to use it a lot inside this tutorial, because I do not want to use toast message a lot. So what I'm going to do is open your app, Java class and package. I'm going to create another class at the name of message, and in here I create a public static void send message. Okay, and it requires two parameters. The first one is the context you are in, your context variable, and your message. And inside toast.makeText, pass your context in here and pass your message, and specify how long this toast appear on your activity. And that's it. Let's close this class. When the query executed, so I'm going to call the message class.sendMessage. So in here you pass the context. So I'm going to create an extra variable in here, private context, and I initialize this context, which is this one, and I initialize it by this context. And that's it. So the first parameter we will pass that context variable and your message table created. If the table was not created, so you can pass the message to the user, or you can also use the logcat if in case of any error. Error e.to.print stack string, and I cast this to string. So I call the e.toString, and that's it. So I'm going to wrap up again. If you want to interact with SQLite database, so create an extra class and name it whatever you want. In here I name this class as subscribe to my channel, and extend your class from SQLiteOpenHelper. Make sure that you extend your class from this SQLiteOpenHelper with hold control and bring the mouse in here, and whenever I click on it, so it's going to take me to the class which is SQLiteOpenHelper, and this is an abstract class. You can see it. So let's get back to our code, because this class manages your database. If it is the first time you open your app and this database doesn't exist, so it's going to create this database, and afterward creates your tables, and after that add these columns into your my table by the query that you have written in here. After you have created your table of schema, create your constructor in here and pass the context. If you don't know what is context, why you are using context in here, don't worry too much about it. We will work out in the next video. And call the constructor of the superclass by the super method. The first parameter you must pass the context, and the second parameter you must pass your database name. And if you want to create your own cursor factory, make sure that you initialize it in here and pass the object, and in here make sure that you use the database version. And after that, implements two important methods, which one is onCreate, and this onCreate method will get called if your database doesn't exist, if your table doesn't exist. First it's going to create your database, and after that it will run your query which you have written in here, and this table will be added to the database that have been created by your system, I mean by your SQLiteOpenHelper. And after that we will toss a message the user that your table created, or you do not need to do this if it is not necessary. So I'm going to do this for the lesson purpose. And don't forget that whenever you're dealing with database operations, make sure that you put them inside the try catch block in case of any exception if occurs. And another important method is onUpgrade method, and this method is responsible for altering or dropping the tables that you want. So in the next video we will see how to work with onUpgrade method. So I hope I have made you guys crystal clear, and if you guys do like what you watched, make sure that you subscribe us if you're new to this channel, and let us know your thoughts in the comment boxes below this video, and support us in any way you can. Have fun learning. Peace out. In the next video we will write the code in the most preferable way.